I call the Honourable Nikki Wagner.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. It is with enormous pleasure that I rise to support these bills that will establish the Border Processing Arrivals and Departures Levy. But I just want to start by acknowledging the questions by the member Rino Terakatini and say, yes, Mr Terakatini, I'm very happy to take you to see JBMS and see how successful it is and how well it's working. And at the same time, I'm very happy to offer you a free, complimentary, full body search, if you'd like to take that up. So, Mr Speaker, New Zealanders have told us that they want a safe border, and this levy will cover the costs of managing our border efficiently and well, cover the costs and only the costs of managing our border. It is to protect us against illegal travellers and the illegal goods that they carry with them. Drugs, firearms, objectionable material, and it is to protect us against biosecurity risks, things like fruit fly, things like Didimo, and of course the biggest threat of all to our economy, foot and mouth disease. And I think it's really interesting, and I'd like to point out to Mr Prosser that yes, good biosecurity will protect our agricultural industries, but it also protects our tourism industries. And as we've heard, when they had the foot and mouth outbreak in the UK, it cost nearly £8 billion, £1 which is about 15 million New Zealand dollars in terms of travel and tourism costs. And I do want to add to the discussion that the Honourable Nathan Guy said in terms of the regions. The regions are the ones that provide our agricultural exports. The regions are often the people who have our tourism. And so if we want to look after our regions, we need to support this levy at the border. And I just want to say, let's forget about the semantics. Tax, levy, levy, tax. Forget about the semantics. This payment is all about cost recovery and only cost recovery at the border. And it's about choice. Remembering that only 42% of the people that go across our borders are New Zealanders. Every traveller will have to pay to go across this border. Everybody will have to pay. Everybody will pay the levy, but they'll only pay it if they choose to use our border services. Only if they choose to use the services. And another question for Mr Prosser was asking me was, how are we going to collect this money? The key issue here, and it does reflect on what the member Jacinta Ardern was talking about, is to make this border clearance levy, the collection, as simple and as easy to collect as possible. To do that, we are proposing to use existing payment systems. The airlines would pay a monthly lump sum payment to the Civil Aviation Authority, and the cruise ship operators would pay to Customs. These funds would then be allocated to Customs and MPI. And for other customers, such as the people who travel on private yachts or aircraft, their levy will be collected directly from them as they enter and depart New Zealand. And again, the member Stephen Browning was concerned about the cost of going and managing the border for these private yachts. We do that now. We make sure that every yacht is processed correctly at the border. And finally, for Mr Shaw, I don't think he needs to be concerned about how we manage the intelligence at the border. There will be no changes to what our normal custom procedures. We have to have a face-to-face check against their documentation, and that also reflects on why there's a cost going in and going out, whereas arrivals only have to do biosecurity. Whether people are going in or going out, we have to have a face-to-face check at the border. So finally, just to recap on why this levy is good for New Zealand and New Zealanders. It's flexible, it's future-proofed. As traveller numbers increase, so will the levy increase. And interestingly enough, about that is it's not just about numbers. As these numbers are increasing, there is a greater diversity of types of travellers that come across our borders. There's greater complexity at the border, and those funds will gather so that we have the resources to manage that. We certainly want to make sure that our borders are efficient and effective. We don't want to see the sort of congestion that you might see in LA or Miami. It's fairer. This levy is fairer because it applies to the people who use the services, and it applies to the people that provide the risk for us. Just like any other system, just like the system that we have for goods, travellers will pay their way to get through the border. And finally, it's fit for purpose. It is international best practice to have a levy at the border. The same principle is used right around the world. The only difference is that our levy will be more cost effective, about $20, whereas Australia is at least double that. The UK is over 5 times that, and also Canada and the US. At the moment, New Zealanders are in a lose-lose situation. They pay all the costs at our border for international visitors and then have to go and pay the costs at other people's borders. Lose-lose. So basically, I really support this bill. It's good for New Zealand and good for New Zealanders. Thank you.